The invisible history of the human race asks how the past shapes us today. It's a tour of the many ways that history does and doesn't matter. And for me, it became a quest to find out how all the things that get passed down, the DNA and the stories and the records, shape us or leave their mark on us in some way. I spoke to people whose entire lives and whose identities had been profoundly shaped by histories that they knew nothing about. I looked at genealogy, which is one of the most popular hobbies in the world. Genealogy is really interesting because it also asks many questions that are quite uncomfortable for lots of people. And I looked at the longest thread of all, which is human DNA, and the ways that it can now tell us things about the past that we never thought were possible. It's not unusual to be interested in ancestry and history. How does the past shape us? What do our parents and their parents and beyond that, what do they pass down to us? And how do the lives of people who are long dead shape the lives of the rest of us who are still alive? When I started going out and talking to people and asking these questions, I found that there were two really powerful and opposing camps to ideas, to feelings about this. And on the one side, there are people who are unashamedly curious about all the ways that the past might shape us, whether it's as individuals or as families or as populations. Many of these people are genealogists and family historians. But on the other side, the educated consensus, the supposedly sophisticated point of view, was that a lot of these questions add up to very little at all, and that asking them is quite pointless. I came across historians who thought it wasn't real history. I spoke to scientists who thought it was absurd to imagine that your identity can be shaped by something that happened so long ago. I read about academics who said that pride in the past was just vanity, and who imply that any feeling that we have about the past at all is completely pointless. And there are many journalists out there who say that history, that genealogy, for example, is literally bunk. So what I wanted to do was resolve the tension between these two things and find out what was myth and what was real. Looking into the invisible history of the human race meant looking into the history of genealogy and eugenics in America from colonial times through to the 21st century. It meant looking at the uses of genealogy in the Third Reich and even in modern-day North Korea. And as soon as you start probing, it becomes really obvious why people might be suspicious and even fearful about the uses of genealogy, and particularly the ways that DNA can be used to reveal our identity or perhaps shape certain things about it. But what I found was that for as many stories that there are about people whose genealogy or family or the larger group that they come from has been used against them, there are as many stories where someone's past was stolen entirely from them. And if you want to disempower people, it seems like both of these strategies are really effective. And what this means, what this says, of course, is that asking about your history is an act of great power, and the desire to know about what came before you is really primal.